limited podcast series by Leader's Edge called Falling Into It. This is a podcast where young professionals share their stories and thoughts on the insurance industry as they continue to grow their careers. My name is Zach Ewell, and I am a content and marketing associate here at the Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers, and a contributing writer to Leader's Edge magazine. My guest today is Drew Taylor, a young 25-year-old broker at Founder Shield Insurance. With a bachelor's degree in finance at St. Joseph's University, Drew has been working at his company for 2 years now and is a broker for the cannabis industry. I sat down with him prior to the new year to discuss his career and journey into the insurance business. Thank you for joining me, Drew.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zach.
So, my first question, how did you first get your start in the insurance industry? Were you always interested in protecting cannabis, or did you start in another area of coverage?
Sure. So St. Joe's in Philly, where I went to school, has kind of historically been one of the top-rated risk management colleges. So I wanted to pursue that in college, but ultimately elected to go with a finance degree. So kind of had, an interest of risk management and insurance throughout college. Then landed an internship with a firm called Connor Strong in Buckalo in the Philadelphia area. They're an insurance broker in the space as well. Ultimately decided that, I was interested in kind of the emerging markets where Founder Shield specializes. So moved away from Connor Strong and moved to Founder Shield about 2 years ago now, where I've been focusing primarily on cannabis since I've been here for the last 2 years. So more or less kind of something I fell into at Founder Shield, but be kind of brought on by an interest in the insurance space since school.
After looking at your website and talking with several of your coworkers at Founder Shield, I was surprised to see how many young faces you have at your company. Guessing from the website, it appears most employees at Founder Shield are in their 20s and 30s. Why is this? Is it that young people enjoy working with fellow young professionals? Does it have to do with the contents and coverages for which your company insures?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination of those two. I think it boils down to us focusing on emerging risks, the startup space, cannabis, cryptocurrency, autonomous vehicles. We're dealing with the CEOs of these startups who probably not a whole lot of difference in age between us. So I think that's part of the equation. And I think it has to do with kind of the energy that Founder Shield has. And we like to kind of operate, and view ourselves as more of the tech company, as more of the startup, than kind of the traditional insurance brokerage. And when you kind of look at the leadership of a number of those companies, it's not exactly cut from the same cloth as the leadership that run kind of the Fortune 100, 200, 500 companies.
So could you go more into Founder Shields and what you do as a broker insuring cannabis?
Sure. So the cannabis stuff comes out of the subsidiary Alpha Root. And, we operate like a traditional brokerage would. We're the intermediary between the carrier and the client. We help clients a lot more with their risk management strategies than just procuring insurance. So we really like to view ourselves as kind of an extension of their company and not just a service provider that's, getting them insurance quotes.
So there is a lot of talk and enthusiasm around insuring the cannabis market. As a broker in this ever-changing field, what excites you about this market's future? And then is there anything that worries you?
The most exciting part to me is, insurance right now. We talk a lot about, a hard market or a soft market, what carriers are writing what coverages at what cost. And that changes on a daily basis, kind of regardless of industry. And then you kind of throw in an additional variable with the cannabis space where, the cannabis space is also changing on a daily basis. So you kind of have two different variables moving at two different paces. And it's exciting to wake up every day and kind of learn more about the space and, who's doing what, what's happening, unfolding from a legal perspective. So I think it's just a lot more moving parts that build the enthusiasm than, just traditional insurance. So that's exciting to me. From a worrisome perspective, I think anytime an industry moves too quickly, you have kind of regulatory concerns. But from an insurance perspective, what worries me about the space a little bit is, it's a very new space that's only been underwritten and analyzed for a few years now. And with that, you kind of have loss experience building in space. And to date, the loss experience has been pretty minimal, meaning there haven't been a whole lot of losses incurred in the kind of the product liability, general liability space. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic looking over the next few years and waiting for that claims experience to develop. And then we'll kind of see if I should be worried or not.
The cannabis industry has been experiencing growing pains for the past several years. There has been plenty of debate on whether the federal government should reduce its classification of cannabis being illegal, and if they should allow banks and financial institutions to integrate within the marijuana industry. Meanwhile, the cannabis industry has relied on cash and cryptocurrency in the past to grow its market. I'm assuming all of this red tape only complicates your company's workflow and growth. What are you looking to happen to change cannabis insurance for the better? Would the federal government declassifying cannabis as illegal be the end-all be-all for solving your industry's woes?
Sure. So this is kind of a couple part answer, starting with kind of the red tape and complicating our workflow. I think for us at Alpharoot and at Founder Shield, one of the differentiators from us versus another brokerage or more established brokerage in the space is that we know how to work around kind of the red tape and work with the regulators to bring insurance to the space. So having that red tape and having those roadblocks actually probably inhibits, or it provides us the ability to do the business and work as effectively as we do. I think without the red tape, you'd see more brokers in the space. What do we look to have happen to change cannabis? We actually hosted a webinar on this very topic today. Check it out on our LinkedIn. But kind of two things in the air right now that are pressing. You have the Senate runoff race in Georgia, which if it flips Democratic, then you effectively have a Democratic Senate. Then Democrats would hold a majority in both the House and the Senate, as well as the MORE Act moving through the Senate, which would remove marijuana from the Controlled Substance Act. So kind of those two things in tandem, I think would be a really solid start for the space to start 2021.
How has this pandemic impacted your clients, and has it changed any parts of the business for the better?
Yeah, especially in the cannabis space, we saw early on cannabis be deemed essential, which was monumental for a number of our insureds, especially kind of the smaller operators in the space, for the 4 or 5 months we saw. The other thing we saw was a major push in the delivery space. There was always kind of this cannabis delivery, as there always has been delivery, from food or alcohol, what have you. But there wasn't the same kind of volume of businesses doing the cannabis delivery that there are now.
I find the whole idea of insuring cannabis fascinating because on one end you have this established industry called insurance that has been around for hundreds of years, and then you have this new industry which is growing, not established, and strikes a chord with some people. When you tell people what you do they find it surprising that insurance brokers play an important role in the cultivation of the cannabis industry?
I'm not so sure that they're shocked that we play an important role in the space. As I kind of mentioned in the intro, insurance really is that line between the legal world and the finance world. So we're very much inundated with kind of a financial provider or service provider in the space rather. So I think, naturally we kind of are in tandem and in tune with the space with what's happening from a regulatory perspective. So I think, from people that don't operate in the cannabis space, maybe they're a bit shocked that an insurance broker would play such a role. But people that have had to place insurance coverage for cannabis companies or own and operate cannabis companies that procure insurance, they very much understand kind of the role that we play.
As you continue to grow your career, do you see yourself continuing in this direction of the insurance industry, or do you have other passions or interests in coverage besides cannabis?
Yeah, this is never one that I like to admit to too many people, but I think I'm a little bit of an insurance nerd. So, even if the cannabis space takes off, I very much find myself happy with the decision to move to Founder Shield and Alpha and help the cannabis space procuring insurance and working through the risk management strategies with those clients.
In a broad sense, where do you see the cannabis industry and the insurance around it in, let's say, like 10 years, if that's doable? There's a lot of, it seems like almost every other year there's a state that joins and makes cannabis and either recreational or medical marijuana legal in their state. Do you think that this business will continue to grow and it'll overcome its growing pains, and you'll see the governments and industries working together to ensure its productivity and prosperous future?
Sure. So when I think of cannabis and being legalized, there will always be medicinal uses for cannabis. And I think through the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long it may take to become, maybe fully federally legal and accepted, there will still be the medicinal undertones. And I think that the cannabis space from an insurance perspective will always align more closely with the pharmaceutical world than kind of any other product or the alcohol. I think, there will always be federal regulation surrounding it. So it'll never be some product that doesn't need to be FDA cleared, DEA, like all the alphabet soup entities that need clearance. So I think eventually it'll overcome the growing pains of, only a handful of insurers in the marketplace offering coverage. But I don't think it'll ever be kind of just any commodity. I think it'll always be more closely tied to the pharmaceutical world than anything else.
Well, thank you for that honest answer. I appreciate it.
No, I thought these questions were great. It actually did make me think a lot. So I appreciate that. It's always good to kind of look at, what I do on a daily basis and what we do at Founder Shield and Alfred from a different perspective. So I appreciated the thoughtful question.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Drew. Thank you for listening to Falling Into It. Please listen to more of our podcasts and content at leadersedge.com or on our SoundCloud account. Till next time, I'm Zach Ewell. Hope to see you soon.